Hello again, welcome to Ship Nuggets. I'm Omo Imokwede. I'm really excited for you to join this broadcast, this video. I have been talking about followership. You know, that ship that people don't really like to get into. You know, I remember, in the park you hear parents say, don't be a follower, be a leader. And in the past I would say, yeah, that's right, don't be a follower, be a leader. But now I have a different approach towards it. There's absolutely nothing wrong in my mind in being a follower if you know what true followership really means and know how you understand the dynamics of it and understand how it can be used to benefit your life and your organization. So we've been talking about followership. In the last video that I did on followership, I talked about what followership is. And just a little bit about some of the misconceptions that we have when it comes to followership. So today I want to talk about why we should follow. Why this followership study is important. Like I said in the last video, there are many leaders, many individuals who just kind of approach followership with with a stanky face, like with their nose up and like, no, I'm not a follower. I don't want, I'd rather just learn about leadership and all that stuff. But let me tell you something. If you don't know how the dynamics, or you don't know how people that work with you operate, you don't understand the followers that are with you, how are you going to reach out to them? No, explain. How are you going to affect people you don't even know and understand? There's all these things that they do right now, even Twitter and all these Instagram. They're constantly evaluating their customers and their followers. That's followership. They're responding to what is revealed, like I said before. And so this notion that, I should just focus on leadership alone and not followership doesn't make any sense. There are some people who will say, why can't you call it some other name? I don't like the name followers. When you say I'm a follower, it just means that I'm just this little worm. No. If you want to change the name of follower, then you should change leader too. Because it's not about the names. It's about the roles. It's about what they do. It's about the script. It's about the relationship. And in some situations, someone who's a leader may not be leading all the time, so there are a lot of dynamics to it. But anyway, plenty of time to go into that. What I want to talk about today is why we should study followership. And the first thing is, that I put there, it's vital for the success of your organization. If you as a leader, should be studying about leadership and at the same time studying followership. Study things from a follower-centric position. I like what Kelly said in his book. He said followership and feedback go hand in hand. So as a leader, you must constantly be looking out for feedback from your followers so that you can know, whether or not you need to clarify what is revealed, aka the vision of your organization. So, followers are responsible. They play a vital role for the success of the organization through their feedback, through their participation, through their critical thinking, through just being there, through their support. So it's very, very important for you to study your followers and study the whole construct of followership, because without followers, there's no leadership. Without followership, there's no leadership. I mean, it's very simple. Maxwell said it. If you are just leading and nobody's following you, you're only taking a walk. So if you cannot learn about followership, then what's the point of your leadership? If you're not doing anything. You're just a daydreamer, just kind of enjoying yourself. So it's important to learn about followership just as it is important for you to learn about leadership, because without followership, your leadership does not exist. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Now, another reason why you should study followership is because followership highlights a relationship. Remember I said that followership is a response to a relationship, right? Either between hierarchical roles, between father, mother, between leaders and the followers. But you see, when you follow, you are establishing a relationship. Take Twitter, for example. When people follow in Twitter, they follow you in Instagram, they're trying to establish some form of informal relationship with the people that they are following. They're trying to form a connection with the people that they are following. And when that happens, when a relationship, whether it's formal or informal, is established, the next thing that forms from that is influence. Because when you have a relationship with someone, that person has the potential or the probability or capability of influencing you. Whoever you have a relationship with gives you and that person the opportunity to exchange influence relationships. So when you follow somebody or you follow someone, you establish a relationship that leads to some form of influence. Many times when we follow people on Instagram or Twitter and all that stuff, we find out that they start having some form of influence on our lives. They start having some form of thinking in our lives. They start having some form of, hold over us, if you will, and, as a result of that, that influence now leads to what is called direction. In other words, the relationship with who you follow leads to an influence. That influence leads to direction. In other words, you will always head in the direction of the people that you're following. You always head in their direction if you follow somebody physically. You always head in the same direction of the person you're following mentally. You always head in the same direction in the person that you're following spiritually. Now, are there some anomalies? Are there some, exceptions to the rule? Of course, there are exceptions to the rules. But the bottom line is that we have to study followership so that we can determine the type of relationships that we have, so that we can determine the type of influence that we're allowing in our lives, and so that we can determine the direction that those influences have in our lives. You see, someone says if you want to be rich, walk with the rich. If you want to be wise, walk with the wise. So if you allow yourself to respond to people from a certain particular place and establish relationship from a certain place, it allows them to have influence over your life, which determines the direction that you go. So that's why we need to study followership, so that we can evaluate our relationships, influences, and directions. Pretty simple. Now, we need to study followership because to lead, you must first follow. To lead, you must first follow. That is a scriptural principle, and it's a principle that works all year round. I mean, many of us look at someone like Warren Buffett and we're like, wow, Warren Buffett, he's the man. He's a financial guru and he's an investment guru. But what we don't realize is that Warren Buffett was a student and a follower of Fisher. And he went to Columbus, Ohio went to Columbus University to study under Fisher. So you look at Martin Luther King Jr. and you just look at Martin Luther King Jr., but his name is Martin Luther King Jr. for a reason. Why? Because Martin Luther King Sr. was his dad, and he followed his dad. He was also a follower of our Thurman, right? He was also a follower of Mahatma Gandhi. Many people looking at Michael Jackson and they like Michael Jackson, and they don't realize that Michael Jackson followed a lot of other musicians before him, right? There was James Brown, right, that he followed. There was Sammy Davis Jr. These are people that he followed. You look at Bruce Lee and you see Bruce Lee and you like Bruce Lee and all those things, and you think Bruce Lee's all fine and cool and he knows how to kick those high kicks. But let me tell you something, Bruce Lee was a student and a follower of Ip Man. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Before you lead, you've got to follow, and that's why you need to understand this concept of followership so that you'll be able to use it for your advantage. Another reason why we need to study followership is because it showcases culture. Different cultures have different types of relationship and different dynamics between their leaders and their followers. For example, in Africa, there's this dimension called power distance, where the leaders are, the center of power is on the leaders. It's not participatory. It's not shared. The leaders are in charge. And such, it creates a distance between their followers. Now, if you don't understand that there's a power distance dynamic in that context, and that context, you need to kind of know how to walk within that context to get the best out of that relationship, then you're not going to be successful. So, for example, if I'm in America and I move over to Africa and I start trying to lead people who have a power distance relationship with their leaders, and I don't understand that dynamics of followership, I'm not going to be successful. And if I come from Nigeria over to the United States and I start to use that power distance relationship like I had in Nigeria here, it's not going to work. I remember one time, many times people have come over to start businesses here from Africa, or you go from here over to Nigeria or Africa, different parts of the world, and you find out that because of a lack of understanding of followership, you're not able to know exactly what to do in terms of the right products, in terms of the right services, because you do not know the followership of the culture. There are also subcultures as well. Like in the military, the followership and leadership dynamic in the military is different from the followership leadership dimension in the church. So you need to know, and then it's different from a corporate environment, from a non-corporate environment. You need to know the context with which you are operating, because without understanding context, you can't even really understand leadership and followership. So one reason to understand followership is for us to be able to know how culture affects what we do in our daily lives. One other reason, last reason to study followership is that followership helps us to understand who is in control, who is leading and who is not leading. It helps us to understand leaders, the leadership followership relationship. Followership also helps us, it's also a basis of our Christian walk with God. Jesus Christ said, "Follow me and I will make you fishers of men." In other words, when you follow him, you'll be able to follow others the right way. And when you follow correctly, people will also follow you correctly. Now, it may not always be in the same fashion, but you are laying a foundation, a principle with which you can walk with down the road. So that's it in a nutshell, why we need to study followership, And on a practical level, HR managers, you need to know who your followers are. You need to know about followership so you can deal with employees. You'll be able to categorize them, know how to deal with them, know whether to sell to them, know whether to tell them, know whether to delegate to them. These are reasons why we need to study followership. And so that's pretty much all I have for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's sail to the top.